Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's February 25th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And if you were looking for a chart lesson yesterday and didn't find one, well, that's because I didn't do one. I had a little family emergency and had to cut out here for take care of that for a little bit. And by the time I got done, it was 7 o'clock, and I was too tired. Didn't feel like coming back to the office to do a chart lesson, especially with the volatility the way it was. So today's another wild and crazy day. There's so many trades here. I mean, I probably marked a dozen or more trades, and you probably could find another 8 or 10 trades in there that could at least be green. You might even argue that they could be red or blue. I just picked out the obvious ones that were fairly straightforward and relatively easy to find. Um, One thing I will show you here, early on we were in this two-tiered channel, but when we kept pushing lower here, you had to assume that maybe this was a midline, this lower side here, not it didn't. So what you do is you measure that one, and then just look for a measured move down, like so, and you can see that's exactly where we went to. And then this was likely the center of the pattern right here. You're moving down, and that's kind of the midpoint there. So you would think that's probably going to be the center of the pattern, and that's what I would assume and until I figured out something different. But just measure that and then look for prices to go down from there. And you can see we pretty much got a perfect measured 2 legs down. And that's really where the final support came in for the day. I wouldn't say we traded up. Well, we did trade up from there. We traded up and closed off of those lows. I mean, it doesn't look very far, but that's actually, this is down here near 31.11. We traded all the way back up. I mean, generally that's a day's movement right there. 20 or 30 points would be a big move, but it just looks tiny in this big, with all this volatility. So you got to be real careful trading this because, and you really, at times you can trade it both ways. Notice as the day progressed, you don't see anything. Well, we did once we made the measured move there. I did mark one more long going in there. We had a little, but that's the first real bounce of any meaning. That's the first meaningful bounce we had since we turned down from up here. So it was pretty obvious what was going on by the time we were headed way down here. You're looking for this target here. And I mean, we could have gone even lower. Sometimes you'll push through and you'll get another move, another equal distance move. But I mean, this is a huge day, so it'd be hard to move much further than this in one day. So just remember because of the volatility, to be careful. You may not even want to trade this live. If you've got a small account and you're trading singles, you hate to miss out on some of these moves because I mean, if you can you catch a runner on a lot of these, and if you just catch one of these trades, you can make a mint on just a single runner. So it's worth trying to catch some of it. But if you got a small account and your trading is not the greatest, and you're not a skilled trader, I would be careful trading this stuff. I really would. You might just trade it on sim because somebody asked me, well, can we go to a bigger chart? Yeah, you could try, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 tick chart, but what you'll find is then your bars will be huge, and so you still, you're just creating another issue. So it's really, I don't know if it helps you to change or not. You can try that and see if it helps, but really all it does is make your bars 2 or 3 times bigger, and you can't find a safe entry with that large a bar anyway. So you may be better off just to stick with this chart and wait on the sure things, because there's quite a few sure things in here, especially later in the late morning on, because this was a clear two-tiered channel inside the other side of the bigger channel. So anyway, I'm going to back out. We're going to go through the trades. I'm going to get started because it's going to take a little while. And I'm going to move through these pretty quickly because there's just so many of them. And like I said, there's probably others in here you could argue for. So, if you see something and I didn't mark it or talk about it, doesn't mean that there wasn't a reason to take the trade or whatever. You just have to kind of draw the line someplace. And so, anyway, uh, let's back on out and make this a little bigger where it's easier to see. Uh, 7 o'clock came right in this little move here, and we made this high. We came down and we got a break here. But notice the move down, first entry, second entry, and you really had a bunch of matching lows across here that you broke below. So that's a nice second entry long on your first break of the trend line here. So nice bullish bar. There's really enough room to even get out before you get back to the EMA. So I like that one. There's a high or low right here. I didn't mark it because there's 1, 2, 3. It's a double top, several matching highs there. Uh, that's one you could at least argue for it to be green. I didn't mark it. We run up and we make a double top and then we come back down and you make another double bottom here and you get another second entry long. So I like going long there. And you really could look at that like a double test because we made that low, went up, came back down there, and then we went up and we came back down and bounced. So you may, and again, there's a higher low here, but this is a trading range now. This is a very obvious trading range. And anytime you go long in the middle, it's suspect. There is a little bit of a trap there. So that would be the one time I'd say you might take one of those. So again, there's another one that you could be green, and there's going to be a lot of trades like that. So I'm not even going to talk about all of them. So again, if you see one and I don't talk about it, if it's just driving you nuts and you want to ask me about it, feel free to. But this market's crazy right now, so there's just so many trades that, just wait on the better trades because that's in the middle of the range. It brings on more risk because you could turn up right there and get trapped. I mean, especially in trading ranges, these failures and stuff don't mean as much. So just be careful with that. Wait on the better thing, but wait on the sure trades. So, but anyway, we run down, we push right through, we pull back and test it, and then we come back again with a little double test and a little bit of a trap right there and nice bearish bar. I like going short right there. And you would hope we'd get another measured move down. We don't. It's easy scout, but it bounces. And there's another one. That's a lower high right there, and that's tempting. But the problem is you still got this trend line right here working up. And there's been no break of that yet. So just wait. And that would have been a great entry because you could have ridden that. You catch that one trade there with a runner, and you're probably done for the day. But you still get a chance at this when it comes down. You get a first entry, and then you move down, you come back, and you get a failed second entry long right there. And that's really two legs back to the EMA. Big bearish bar. I like going short there. It looked like it was going to bounce because of the support here. But when you kept making those lower highs and look at all that stem and everything closing down here, that's a good sign we're probably going lower. And the bottom just drops out. And like I said, you catch that, you get a runner, that one trade, and you're probably done for the day. Because that one move is 32.35 to 32.22. So that's a 13-point move. And of course, you bounce down here. You got to be careful buying anything down here, especially with everything still below the EMA. That's really tempting to come back. But you got a midline here, and that might tick higher and trap you and turn down. So I think you're better off to sit tight here. The bias is still down. And again, you could trade this both ways. There's a higher low right here, but it didn't make it back to the trend line. And at that point, this looks like the other side of the trend channel. It does push on through there. And it turns out that this is just a midline here, but it's hard to know that at that point in time. So it's another one. And we actually come back and you get a second entry long right there. Again, I didn't mark it because we just came off the high, and there's a good chance we go to the low, which you see it would have worked, and then it turns and goes to the low. And you would hope you'd get an entry here, but you don't. But notice what happens. You push up here, you make a double top on a failed breakout, you come back in and make a failed second entry long, and you test that resistance and you turn down from there. So I like that when you get plenty of room to get out. And you're working sideways here, and there is a downward bias. So you could have looked at that as a failed second entry long, but it's right back to the trend line, and this is what will happen until it bounces. There looks like there's a two-tiered channel here, but in the end, it looks like the range is winning out here, and prices just end up going lower. But notice this new high, then you get a first entry, and then you get a second entry long right here. It fails, but you don't want to trade a failure here because this is probably going to be a failed breakout. But you end up getting a double test and a big bearish bar right there, right off that trend line and confirming that trend line. And so this is likely to go lower. And again, you don't know this you don't know this is going to take off like this. But if you catch this one trade, I mean, this runs all the way to the other side, and that's a good 32.25 to. I mean, that's a good 30 points plus there. So there's a great place, and I'd be trying to pick up a runner on on certain. On failures, on failed breakouts. When you're going sideways, you got to be careful. But once you went through here, I'd try to pick up a runner on this trend line right here, especially if it goes on through here, because there's a good chance that this is a two-tiered channel here. And this, well, actually, you knew this was a two-tiered channel at this point. So once it goes through, there's a good chance we're coming to here. So this is still just the upper half of the original channel. There's a whole nother side as big as this on down below here. We haven't even got that far yet. So, but you're working down, and there's a couple more instances where we come back to the trend line, but just not very good setups. We come back here, and you get a lower high on a second entry short. I marked this one green just because it's so bearish, and the odds are we're probably. I mean, that's a strong bearish trend. We're going to probably test this low, and we're probably headed to here. And so the only way you could play this really, I wouldn't use that for my signal bar, but once this big bearish one set up, I mean, that's super bearish. I might let it break lower here and drop a limit order back equal to this one to see if I could get filled. And you could have gotten filled on that, and then just try to ride this back down to the lower side. And of course, we bounce. But you don't really get a good setup here either. There is a higher low here, and we did come off the low, but you already got a break of what looks like the trend line right here. So, and you're going long right into a lot of resistance across there in a big downtrend. So it's not worth taking. Even though it worked, you see it doesn't go far, and then we're headed down again. Now, I didn't mark this one, and that's another one you might argue. Notice you got a break and a couple legs up. And look how far away you are from the EMA. Look at how bearish that is. There's a little bit of a trap there. That's another one that, you could argue for that. On a regular day, I'd probably say no, you can't take that trade. But on a highly volatile, very bearish day where you just had a leg like that, you may take that trade. And again, you get a huge runner here. We bounce again. You see, even though these are nice size bounces, in the big picture they're not. They're just correct. They're corrections and a huge downtrend. So you got to be real careful. And there actually is a lower high. That's another one. I mean, there's a failed second entry long there. There's a lot of these that you could argue for. Like I said, I just think you're better off to wait on the sure things. So. And then notice what happens here. You're working down. You make that high. You test it once. You test it twice. Plus, that's a second entry short. Look at that low. First entry, second entry. Nice bearish bar. That's a great setup. And again, it takes off. And then look what happens. You come back. You get another second entry short right off the EMA. First break of that trend line. Boom. That's not a. It doesn't look like a very big move, but I mean that's 76 something to, uh, or really about 80. I'd call that 81, 82, all the way down to 76. That's a pretty good move. It looks small because in the big picture it is small compared to what we've had the rest of the day. And then now we're bouncing, moving up. And I drew this trend line off these highs and drug it over. That's how I got this trend line. Um, and you notice how you got a new high, first entry, pullback, second entry. And I don't know if this broke lower first or higher. Basically, I'd wait for that to close. And if we break higher above that, you might drop a limit order right here and see if you get filled to tick above that. And notice if you just wait, you get a great second entry long with a nice bullish bar right there. It actually is a higher low right here, but you got to go long right into those highs. Probably not worth it. Another reversal right, or not a reversal, but a failed second entry long. Notice that high, first entry, second entry, but it's, you're going short way down here. And you see what happens, it bounces. And here's another one. I didn't mark it. Notice you made that low. You test it once, you test it twice. That's not a good enough signal bar, but when it broke lower right there and then turned and went out, you might go long right there. That's another one that you could argue for at least be green. Same thing here. You got a double test. The problem with this one is the bar is so big, but if you just had a little, if you could get in high enough up here, you might take that, but it didn't turn out right. But you did test that a bunch of times. So when you come back here and make a lower high, problem was you pushed out. That might have cleaned everything out where it can take off, but it's just so close to the support. You probably don't want to take that. I would wait on something better. And it's a shame because look at it go, but it's just the way it works. And there's another second entry short right here. And this is kind of a repeat pattern from similar to this other one I talked about, where the signal bar here, basically you got a new low right here. Well, you could still count the low here because you never break lower. First entry, and then you get a second leg up and second entry. And it is at a key entry point. Actually, you wouldn't have had that trend line yet. So, but look how far away from the EMA it is. The second entry short just had that huge leg down. You'll probably get at least a measured move there. Big bearish bar. So what you might do is let it break lower here and drop a limit order back here one tick below that because it's not a good enough signal bar to use it. And you see it would have come back again and then the bottom drops out. And down here it's just too far away from the EMA. And you come back here. I didn't mark this one. This is another one. It breaks higher and turns and goes out the other side on, and big bearish bar. But I didn't know if this was the trend channel or if this might be a midline yet. So it's just still a little too early. And you get a lower high here, but it's basically at a double bottom. And then look what happens. You come back first entry, second entry. And I didn't mark this one either because you're not back to this resistance. You might have just had an overshoot, so it may rally. And even though it works, and it is a second entry, and it's an inside bar, this has been pretty bearish. So that's another one that you could argue to at least be green. I mean, it's close to even being red just because of how bearish this thing is. But if you notice, if you wait, you come back and you get a failed breakout and you get a little trap and basically a double top and a lower high. And that is a key entry point. Plus it's a failed breakout. And I like going short right there. And again, you could have had a runner on that one. Well, I'm just having all kind of mouse problems here. It keeps freezing. I don't even know where we ended now. I got this thing so out of whack. I think we just talked about that one. Come back. You get a double test here. Second entry short. Notice that's a new swing low. And you come back and first entry, second entry. Even if you count it from here, first entry, still a second entry short right there. So it kind of works out either way. Problem is that there's a little bit of a trend line working up through there too. And you can see, oops, you can see that. I'd at least wait on some kind of little trap or something, and you get that little break hour and gives you a little trap. Runs on down, we come back again. And this is just a two-tier channel. It's kind of hard to see here backed out. I think that's my arrow. That's the midline on the bigger. So we're playing this two-tiered channel right here. Notice it comes back, and again, you're just kind of working side. Notice how we just keep dropping down, and then it'll rally up, and you'll find resistance. But you make that high, and you come back and you test it, and you test it again. You get a little failed breakout right there. But it's right at the key entry point. And that's a really small bar, probably one of the smaller bars we've seen. That's a great chance to go short right there. And again, it takes off. It's at that key entry point. Runs on down here. You make a new low. You get a first entry. This is really just kind of congestive, but it's working higher. And this thing actually broke out the top, turns and runs down. That's so bearish. You might have gone short right there below that, but you're probably better off to wait on that to close, and then just if it breaks below it, take off with it. And of course you get a couple of legs down here, and then it bounces, and you don't want to be trying to go long down here. This thing's dropping like this. Just wait, and you should get shorts. But notice you run up, you try to go higher once, you try to go higher twice, you really get a double test there. Big bearish bar. There's actually a lower high right there. So you could even take that trade. I didn't mark it, but you could take that trade. It's another one you could argue to be green. We drop down and we just keep rolling lower. And this is another little failure here, but notice how congested that is. Just stay out of that. This market, I mean, there's too many good trades here to try to take a trade like that. So just wait. And you actually had a failed second entry long right there, and it does seem to be fitting off that trend line and that midline on this two-tiered channel. But you got to go short right into a double bottom, and never a good idea. And there's a couple more pullbacks here, but I just wait. And then finally, you reach this new low right here, and you make a double bottom. So first entry and then a lower high, second entry, big bearish bar. That's a good place to enter. Once we started making that support, I'd just skip out. I'd just sit tight. I wouldn't enter anymore. And then we bounce. And notice that I don't have any longs here until we pretty much confirmed that we're going higher, and you got a clear channel. And I actually drew this line off the top and drug it down. That's how I found this. But you end up with your first two swings right there, and then you get a confirmation of that trend line right there. But notice you're working up, and you get a first entry short and a second entry short, and it bounces right off the key entry point and pushes through and closes on the other side of all that resistance right there. If it breaks higher, we're probably going higher. Of course it does. There's actually another second entry long right there, and it's the first break. So that's another one. It's so late in the day I didn't mark it, but that's another one you could argue for. So I notice you get a little double test right there of the breakout area. This is like a little breakout pullback long, and that's the main thing is that's a clear channel working up, and that's the first break, and that's a second entry long. So that's why I kind of like it. What I don't like about it is it's so late in the day, and this has been a heavy downtrend. And that got us into the 2 o'clock hour. So again, there's a lot of trades in there that you could argue for, that you could say, hey, shouldn't this be green or maybe even close to red? But again, there's just so many trades here. I only marked the sure things, the obvious ones, and the ones that were kind of close. We talked about them. So, but anyway, I mean that's almost 30 minutes worth. So. If you can't find a trade in a day like this, but one thing I want to say before I wrap up is people will send me, I got several emails the last couple of days of people sending me trades and they want to know why they failed, but they're trying to buy in a downtrend like this. And they see something that looks like a reversal pattern. And most of the time they're not even a true reversal pattern. They're just a correction. And that's what you gotta ask yourself, is this a reversal or is this a correction? And you need to be able to have a pretty good read on the price action to know that before you want to take that trade. Because otherwise you're guessing. And it's just not smart to try to pick reversals in here. Maybe right in here when you look like there was an overshoot, because there's a good chance we're going to correct right there. But once we started this next leg down, and it's real steep like this, you need to know you got a sure reversal going on really before you buy. You need a confirmed trend basically going in the other direction. Otherwise, just leave it alone because you're going to get yourself trapped. Don't be looking for reversal patterns and trying to catch the lows. Unless you're a very skilled trader, that's just a losing strategy. And even for skilled traders, it's not always a smart thing because even they will get fooled. So just remind yourself of that. It was hard to see that this was such a strong downtrend early on this morning because there's a lot of sideways action in there. But when you back out at the end of the day, I mean, it's like, wow, that's a huge trend down. I mean, literally, we started in the overnight way up here at 32.59 and we got all the way down here to 31.20, so that's 100 plus points from top to bottom in one day. And so you don't want to be arguing with that kind of downtrend. Just wait on the prices to come back to the key entry point and then look for an entry with the trend, and you're always going to be better off in most cases. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.